And we're going to make the best of it that we possibly can. That's what we're going to do.
If you were going to build a new high school today, if Bentonville's building a new high school, what's the price tag for a brand new, starting from scratch high school?
I don't know what Bentonville's is. I do know what North Little Rock's is. North Little Rock's high school is $113 million for just the high school. It'll be the most expensive built high school in the state of Arkansas ever. But it'll be a large high school.
But normally it's around 90 million to 100 something million.
Again, depending upon how many students you have.
Brand new high school.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to educate 500 students, it's going to be less.
I think it was a question.
Yes.
So according to the state website that you mentioned earlier, the Bryant School District reported on the audited financials that you received $9,700 per student last year. That included, I think, $1,000 of financing, bond issuance or something, so roughly $8,700, right? So if you just said that you only received $6,500.
Well,
So where did the other $2,000 or $3,000 come
No,
from?
so what I said, let me correct something. We spent $7,200 of local and state dollars.
No, in your earlier presentation,
Right.
when you was looking at that, you said
$6,521 is adequacy.
That's what the state.
That's what the state says every student is. That's based upon an average teacher salary. That's based upon a 500 student school. It's based upon you're going to spend this much money for technology, this much money for transporting each kid, this much money for administration, this number of teachers, etc. We receive more than that. The number you're talking about, over 9,300 plus the 1,000, is federal funds also for special education and students that are at risk. Federal dollars.
So on average, it's $9,300.
About that is what you receive in all those funds, with most of those funds being dedicated to be spent for specific programs.
Right. All right, so you're saying this is a 10-year projection, and I'll say that I agree that you need a millage increase. I could not say that straight up. But when you're looking at a 10-year projection, in 10 years, you could go ahead and say that we'll need another millage increase. So if you're going to build the best school district in the state, why not do something different? Why not issue a bond, take the millage increase, or maybe a little more millage increase, and pay with cash? Because that will give you about $25 million on a conservative estimate on amortization for 30 years, more than what you're going to receive if this passes.
Okay, I don't understand how you raise the capital to build the buildings to do it.
You don't have to build them today. If you say it's immediate need, you won't have school tomorrow. Some kids, correct?
Not all of them are immediate needs. These are projected needs also that the state projects with your student growth. How are you going to house these students? So you're going to have to raise the capital to build these buildings in order to meet those needs. Not all of them. I'll give you that.
No, I'm saying that you could do more if you paid it with cash.
If we had the cash, yes.
And you would receive that cash as it comes in. You might not build the arena in 3 years. You may not build $11 million cafeteria in 3 years. But as the cash comes in, you would be able to build those items as you need. I have a problem with financing a 10-year solution over 30 years. The school district cannot sell. Like if I was going to buy a house, I could finance it for 15 years, and if it's not big enough, I could sell it and roll the capital into a new house. But unfortunately, the school district can't do that.
No.
Because you have a limited, number of people who would buy a school. So you're financing this for 30 years when you should really focus on short term, since it's going to be a short term projection.
I don't know that we could raise enough mills. People would vote enough mills to be able to even generate enough dollars to build the buildings that we would need within the first 3 to 5 years. And if we don't have those roofs, those classrooms, that's when I think the state takes even greater action.
So do you think they would give you more mills if you issued a lesser amount of bonds? Or you just want to go ahead and say, hey, this is the best we can do?
I don't.
You've already said, Sean Mann spoke, that he thinks we have the best school in the state. I agree with you, my kids wouldn't be down here. I'm asking you to do something a little different. Do something different with Cabot. We talk about Cabot. Cabot only has $60 million of debt. We're going to pile $72 million on top of $60 million. And you're strapping $14,866 per student of debt on your school district. And that's what we're living in now. We need to stop that. When these kids come out of college, if they have student loans, average loan on the college student is about $65,000. That's crazy.
I don't
You come around
disagree.
and you're putting it in that environment. You're saying, hey, it's okay if you can use debt. That's not right. That's not true. We should be doing better, and we should build cash or short-term debt, not long-term debt for a short-term solution. And that's the issue I have. I'll give you more mills if you promise not to do it. 30 million.
And I think you would. I don't know that the majority of the people would if you raised the kind of mills that we'd have to do that. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your options. At this point, we don't have that option today.
Let me give you another scenario. You say $200 on $200,000 times 30 years. That's a full year of child care that this lady right here could be paying. Or somebody else who has children that work in Little Rock, they have toddlers in school. That's a full year of school daycare you're asking them to give up. It's also a whole year or maybe more of people's food on the table. I'm asking you to get back up and look at a cash option or a short-term debt option.
At this point, sir, I don't have that option.
Well, let me ask this one. To his point, I know what he's saying. I wished it would work that way. You'd have to raise a much higher millage, but there's no penalty for paying that bond off early. Can you do that?
You can. I'm not sure you can. At this point anymore, I don't know if the bond system works. You used to do callable bonds, so that whatever mills were dedicated to those were actually whatever your assessment growth was, those dollars went in. That's the whole plan of using this. Is that I can tell you in 10 years, I don't know that you will have to raise a millage. I think that with the assessment growth that you have in this district, that will continue to grow to a point where you can leverage and sell second lien bonds, not have to extend the debt, not have to add any debt, and continue to add structures and buildings. At the same time, you're exercising your needs and actually taking advantage of the state's program, as well as putting money away. I mean, I think it's important that we take some money and put it in the building fund to plan for that second elementary school 5 years down the road. So you don't have to have any other millage increase. I would tell you, I don't think that you will have to do that. Now, what I can't tell you is what the student numbers are going to be in 10 years. I mean, there's so many things that could happen. I mean, in 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, we don't know what the economies will be. We don't know what's going to happen with Little Rock, Pulaski County, North Little Rock. I mean, they're talking about, will that be 5 districts, 6 districts, or maybe 1 district?
And I agree with you. You made a valid point. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in 30 years. And you're putting us on the hook. You're encumbering the whole community to debt, and we don't know. We don't know what's
Yes, sir.
And you know, you've listed the cafeteria. I understand kids have to have rituals. $11 million. I've built buildings in my career. $11 million is a pretty big deal.
It is big.
And you know, $15 million arena. If you're going to use it for community organizations, why don't you go to the city and say, what can you do? Because the city's hurt for economic development positions, and you're asking them to send $25 million of local tax dollars to outside banks. And I don't know what, that's not even with the bond loan. I don't even know what the First Security Bank or Cruising Associates going to charge them for that. But you're asking.
Oh, when the bonds are sold?
That's right. $25 million of local tax dollars over 30 years will be sent outside of this area.
If those bonds get sold outside, yes, sir.
Majority of them will. You've only got a limited number of banks in here that's going to buy them.
We have a lot of individuals in the state that buy these bonds. Matter of fact, our old boss buys a lot of school bonds.
Yeah, I've looked. I know there are individuals. They don't buy them in the great numbers as a bank buy.
Not as much as some banks, but we're seeing a lot more individuals and groups, local groups, state groups, because they're some of the best investments you can have. They're guaranteed by the state of Arkansas.
That's true.
I mean, and that's why we get the interest rates that we get.
And you got to realize that you're asking these taxpayers for a lot of money, and he already mentioned it. We've seen poor design buildings. I mean, Hill Farm was at capacity when it opened. You can't take any more kids there, right?
That one is full, yes.
That's full. So I think that's financed over 30 years. I think that's a bad decision.
Well, and we'll resell those bonds.
You're going to call those bonds and resell those?
Yes.
So what's that going to cost? Because there's a load on callable bonds.
Well, because of the interest rate, they've actually been out there long enough that there's no penalty and so we'll actually have we project a lower interest rate than what we had on those bonds.
All right.
So there'll actually be a savings.
That's why I was asking, because we've got the old college savings bond program that had a 30-year note, and it came to where you could call those bonds and reduce the amount that you and I end up having to pay, which actually comes off the top of state government right now. So it's gonna reduce that amount and reduce the amount of years. I mean, there's other districts that do it.
But
You
there's
do it.
also the email that came out that was, that, when this is said and done, this passes, it will have, the district will have $130 million debt. That came from the district.
The total debt on the
Will
district
be
is.
$130 million. That's almost the highest in the state. The
I
only
haven't-
ones, you have 25,000 people in the Pulaski County School District. That's the highest. Then you have Bentonville and, the Northwest Arkansas. They also have more students than what we have. But when you look at the student, I mean, Benton has a high one, but those are to be done shortly, you know, within the original. We gotta do something different. You've got to do something different about carrying this debt around. Because what could you do with $25 more million? You build 2 cafeterias.
Well, it's not any different than what we choose to do when we mortgage a house. Whether we choose a 10-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage, 25, or 30-year mortgage.
That's right.
And-
Unfortunately, for you, it's the public's money.
I understand.
For us, when we're private money, we choose what we do with our. So I would think that the district would assume more fiduciary responsibility in making those decisions. I'm telling you, 30 years out on a arena, you don't have to have on a cafeteria that seems to be overpriced. It's kind of.
Well,
it can be a-
again, we hope it's not overpriced. I mean, we
But
asked,
still, when you do that, you can't, you've already issued $72 million bonds.
right? But if we can get it at a lower, if we can get that cafeteria at lower than 17 million, then we're going to use those funds that we save to continue the renovations of old buildings at the high school, continue to upgrade buildings that were built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, so that they are managing the education of tomorrow's students, expanding our career educational programs. What we're hoping is to free those things up. What I didn't want to do, and you want to be careful of doing, is going out and selling a bond issue and selling a plan in the program, and then when you go to bid, you can't afford to do it. So you've underestimated what your billings are going to be. We're not overestimating, we're just being very, very conservative with what we're doing. I'll tell you, our buildings aren't going to be LEED certified. They're not going to be high cost per square foot buildings. They will look good and have curb appeal, but they're going to be built at the best per square foot value that we can get out of them.
What's the estimate? What's the estimate you're using for that?
On which one? On the, they're so different. I mean, each one of them is different because some of them are innovations, some of them, you know,
I'd like to do the buildings. What's the cost per square foot on the new?
I don't know them right offhand. What the elementary is less than the middle school. The middle school is less than that high school cafeteria. I say that, no, the high school cafeteria is actually less. I don't have that with me, and I apologize. We can get that for anybody that wants it. Because we used it per square foot, the architect and the construction management team did to give us those estimates.
How much money have you spent so far on this election?
Have we spent? I hadn't spent a penny.
The school district hasn't spent it.
I hadn't spent a penny.
So who has? Signs aren't free.
His
They were
group.
donated.
Actually, the signs were free.
Signs
Oh,
were
sweet.
free.
They were donated.
Elder Campbell, can I address something about them saying Hill Farm is at capacity? Hill Farm is at capacity because some of the Bryant elementary kids went there, some other kids shuffled around, and they're there because that's a new school and it's closer to their home. So Bryant Elementary is not at capacity now. So it shuffles around, and there's a bunch of houses being built. And another thing, as a mother, I have 3 kids. My oldest is 27. We moved from South Carolina here so that my child could attend school. She didn't go to college because she didn't come from Bryant. My 20-year-old is in college. My sophomore is going to college because of the school system and how good it is. And I love Bryant. And if we can keep this standard, if we can keep where these kids can take a college class in high school and save $300 or $400 on a college class, it's worth the $50 a year millage on my property. Heck yeah. And if you don't see the investment that you're putting into your community by keeping these standards where they are, then I don't know what to tell you.
Other questions? Comments? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a possibility that in the near future that the high school students will be graduating with possibly an associate's degree?
That's my plan, yes, ma'am. We've been working, Dr. Walters has been working with both Pulaski Tech, and we'll also, we know ULR has done that with Greenbrier. So they started that program for next year. We'll watch and see how that works. That's my goal. I think if we can see a student walk across the stage, not only get a high school diploma, but also get an associate degree or a technical degree, they're one step ahead of a student who's just walking across and they don't have a future. Because they're not going to go to college. We're kidding ourselves if we think 100% of our students are going to go to college. We're kidding ourselves if we think that every job out there is going to require a college degree. It's not. But we do know that many of the jobs are going to require education beyond high school. And what I tell our students every time I get to talk to them is, you better learn to reinvent yourself. Because I changed jobs 8 times. I've never changed my career. 31 years I've been an educator. They're going to change careers. The research tells us they'll change careers, not jobs. And so we have to tool them up and get them ready to be relearners. So we have to give them all the skills and tools they need. But if we can get them on that track to that next level, and Shane and I worked hard to try to create some legislation to make that happen at the high school. And now those doors are open. And I think it's a great possibility for us to have for our students.
I applaud you with that idea and with the board's idea for doing that, and to also recognize college and
Career tech.
the
tracks.
career tech type degrees as well. I applaud y'all for thinking about those 2 areas of expertise for these students. Thank you.
We have to build some partnerships with our business communities. Other questions? Shane, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything, any questions, concerns? Anybody want to come up here and speak? You're more than welcome. This is your opportunity. This is community forum. If not, I don't know what TV show comes on next, but I'm sure we're missing one. If you want to get home and do homework or watch TV, but thank you all for coming out tonight. If you want more information, there is a website that the district has that is only information. The website for the Building for Tomorrow Committee is buildingbryant.org. It's a Facebook page if you want more information that we'll have this week. If you have questions about voting or anything like that, we're around to try to help answer any questions. So thank you all for coming tonight, and hope you have a safe trip home.